All right, everyone. Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. We present here Miami Hurricanes live each and every Wednesday night at 8 o'clock Eastern time. And we do it at our very best when we have Cam Underwood on the line from State of the U. Cam, how are you doing tonight?
Said this when we connected before we started recording. Personally, I'm fine. I'm doing wonderful, personally. In terms of football, however, not so much.
Yeah, so how do we, in fact, summarize what happened on Saturday afternoon in Miami at Hard Rock Stadium? It was quickly 28-0. You can look at all the other stats on the stat sheet and see Miami gaining yardage at a, plus more than twice as much as Virginia Tech. But the one...
It was plus like 220.
Okay. 5-0 in turnovers. That's obviously, if you follow football and statistics, you know that whoever wins the turnover battle wins whatever 75 to 80%. But when it's 5-0, it's near impossible based on the number of possessions in a football game to overcome that. And Miami still almost did because they were down 5-0 in the turnover battle and came all the way back to tie that game. So I'm going to leave it up to you to break that down from it, whatever point in the game you'd like to, because there was a whole lot of positive in the fourth quarter. But when you dig a hole like that, it's almost impossible to dig out of it.
Yeah. I've talked about it on here previously that Jaron Williams had great turnover luck in the first 4 games. Even with, a 73% completion percentage and things like that, he had thrown interceptable balls that were not caught. He'd fumbled the ball 5 or 6 times and recovered all of them personally in the first 4 games. And that luck ran out in a big way. And yeah, I mean, you're throwing interceptions on the first 3 drives of the game. So Jaron actually completed every pass that he threw. He was 4 for 7 in the game with 3 picks. So he completed nearly as many to them as he did to us. But when he threw the ball did not hit the ground. But yeah, it was just, I talked about it from last year. If, a linebacker flashing underneath a slant route or something like that, and, he would continue to throw those kind of things, and that ended up biting him this week. And Bud Foster talked about it after the game, the legendary Virginia Tech defensive coordinator. He said, look, we question his arm strength. And that's something I've been saying. Jaron Williams has a strong enough arm if everything goes right. That means you get blocking, you hit your 3rd, 5th, 7th step, and that ball comes out on time. If everything goes as according to plan, the ball will get there. But he doesn't have the strongest arm. And I hope after you've seen this that you stop arguing with me about the fact that Nkosi Perry has a stronger arm than Jaron Williams. That should be a immutable fact at this point. And when Bud Foster comes out and says we were questioning Jaron Williams' arm strength to the point where we're playing more man-free and jumping everything. And if you look at all the interceptions, Virginia Tech defenders are not giving space. They're getting up the field. Every single time. The first one, which was behind Harley on an RPO slant, the defender was right there, gets tipped up, boom, interception. The next one, the seam or the fade to Brevin Jordan, woefully underthrown, and or it wasn't Brevin Jordan, it was D. Wiggins, excuse me. But that fade thrown to D. Wiggins, woefully underthrown. Defender runs the route better. Boom. He knew that, I need the inside position because the ball's not going to go over my head because Jaron doesn't have that kind of arm. Interception. The third one on the sideline, that's a long throw on an out route. And Jaron, again, you need everything to go right for that throw to be complete. And everything was not right. And, that ball gets picked off. It was just, and then, Nkosi comes in, the first play, he throws a little swing pass to Mike Harley, and then Harley fumbles it, getting tackled. Excuse me. And then Virginia Tech's up 28-0. It was bad. It was bad. The linebackers, Michael Pinckney ended up having 10 tackles on the day with a couple tackles for loss. But he and Shaq Quarterman were still out of place, out of position, trying to play hero ball. which can work sometimes in basketball when you're in possession of the ball and just, that go to hell, look, ISO, whatever, I'm going to get the bucket, period, because I have the ball. But when you do that on football defense, you leave guys open. And you saw that repeatedly with the tight end throwbacks, tight end fullback, H-back, whatever you want to call it. A dude wearing number 29 had 3 receiving touchdowns, playing from the edge of the formation, whether that's fullback, H-back, wing, whatever you want to call it. And a lot of those times you saw 55 and 56 on Miami's defense, guys who have been all conference level players are trying to do somebody else's job, or they're eschewing their responsibility, which ends up being the guy who catches the touchdown. It was a horror show in the first half. It was a comedy of errors. The offensive line was getting beat repeatedly. Run game had nothing to do and nowhere to go. But Foster talked about that too. He said, hey, we ignored 15, Jaron Williams, in the RPO system that they're running because he's never going to keep the ball. So we're going to ignore him as a running option because he won't run. Boom. And yeah, it was all of that, and it was just terrible. So bad. Again, we talked about coming out early, starting fast. Didn't do that, obviously. And, I made the analogy on here last week that Virginia Tech was that endangered animal in a dangerous situation looking to strike out. I said that, they were the raccoon on the deck in the turned over garbage can. I made, talking about that video that everybody's seen. And they're going to come in. And again, I said it. Go back and watch the video. I said that they're in a dangerous position. Their back is against the wall. And they're going to come out and they're going to fight. And they're going to try to save their season. And for at least a week, they did. And there's even more that was bad that went on. Penalties were still terrible and atrocious. How, as Mike Harley, after the game-tying touchdown, you get a celebration, unsportsmanlike conduct penalty, which then backs up the ensuing kickoff to the 20, which gives them a short field to come down and score the eventual winning score. How you lose your head in that moment as a junior on this team is unacceptable. It's unexplainable, unacceptable. Scott Patchen had, not in this game, but previously, he had a penalty late in the game. I forget which one. I think it was the North Carolina game that we lost. He's a fifth-year senior. What are these guys doing? What are you doing? All this is unacceptable. So much is unacceptable. Nkosi Perry came in, played really well. He had 422, 4 scores and a pick. I questioned the decision to throw from 4 times in a row from the 4-yard line on one drive. I thought that was pretty bad. I think that you need to cowboy up and run the ball. And even if you call a pass play and Nkosi runs, 2nd and 3rd down, it was wide open for him to run, and he didn't. And again, I think that's been coached out of him because that's something that we saw on film in high school. And if you look at the record books and you look at the touchdowns and the rushing yards that he had in high school, that's something that in high school, if it broke down, he look, man, I'm going to go because there was space, but we didn't do that. I'm not saying it was perfect for Nkosi. It wasn't. I'm not going to lie. But we saw things from Nkosi in terms of arm strength and passing ability, like down the field, vertical passing ability that no one else on this roster can approximate. That throw on the little out and up to Brevin up the sideline on 3rd and 10 was such a dime. Oh, my goodness. That's an NFL throw of NFL throws. Nkosi could spin that ball, man. Even there's the incompletion. Virginia Tech brought 6 against our 5, so you get a free rusher. He spins out, and then going to his left, stops, flips his hips, and flings it up the sideline to KJ Osborne, hits him in between the hands, and he drops it in the catch mechanic. Yo, what? Nobody else on the roster makes that even comes close, and that ball was on the money. Perfect 40-yard dime under pressure. That throw to Jeff Thomas on the drive with the Hail Mary. But before that, again, stepping out, extending that play to the right, a 45-yard dime, and he got blasted on that play because there's a guy coming from behind him, and then the linebacker or D-end who was there said, yo, sandwich time. And Nkosi knew he was going to take it in the chin. And
I thought that was the best throw of the game.
It was such an amazing throw.
Yeah.
It really was. You got to go back and watch that. If you don't know what I'm talking about, I forget the tag of the time, but it was in the last drive there. It was the best. Between that and the Jordan throw up the sideline, those were the 2 best throws. Oh, and the KJ Osborne, which you're not even going to give him credit for because that's an incompletion. So if you're looking back, with the big plays, that throw to KJ Osborne is incompletion. That's as good a throw as those other 2. You're talking elite level throws. Now, he did make some bad throws. He did have that interception, which After the fact, you look at the film, you could potentially call defensive pass interference on the defensive back on that. I'm not even going to say that. You should have, but that could have been a conversation. He also threw a couple Adam balls that
could have
were
thrown 2 interceptions.
Well, no, he threw 1.
He could have thrown 2.
No, he could have thrown like 4.
Well, there was one on the sideline that he threw. He was under duress, and he's just trying to get. I didn't know if he was trying to get rid of the ball to the right, or he tried to chuck it to somebody on the sideline, and that was the one that was picked off. But there was a penalty.
Right,
it got brought back.
Right, exactly. So I was going to mention that one. Yeah, that was a bad play. And like the floor can be low, but the ceiling is stratospheric with Nkosi. The variance is the thing. So if you're looking for consistency. Hopefully we get consistency and explosion, but it could be really good or really bad. And that throw was really bad. I think he was trying to throw it away, but you got to throw that into the 10th row. You got to not try to get it right on the sideline there. So that was one that was intercepted, but you get a roughing the passer to save you on that one. The last 2 plays of the game, well, not the next to last play, but the last play, you zero in on Jeff Thomas. Don't see the safety underneath there at the goal line who could have picked it off, but he's just like, you know what? Boop, bat it down, ball game's over. So that's another one. And there was another one in the game also. So I'm not saying that it's perfect, but when you spread the field and you let Nkosi go vertically, and the offense looks so different because Jaron does not have that kind of arm strength. Jaron has great arm talent in terms of intermediate and short accuracy. He's very talented at that, obviously, but his arm is average strength at best. So if the offense is going way more horizontal, so you're looking at 15 yards and in for pretty much the entire offense, that's not good enough. So, and when you're talking about every single team is talking about, cool, we're going to walk everything down. We're going to play press man free. We're going to do all these kind of things because we know you're not going to go by us when you got Mark Pope and Jeff Thomas on the roster. P.S. By the way, those two have not played a single offensive snap together yet this year. Why? Seriously, bro. Those are 2 of the fastest guys that you got on the roster. Why are you not putting them on the field together? Why are you not lining them up next to each other? Good luck. You know what kind of route combinations you can run? If you ran a dagger concept with them, if you ran a switch concept, even if you ran a post corner, what could you do? Even if you ran a go and a drag with those 2, you know what kind of speed you're talking about. And that should be the foundation of what Miami's doing. So, there were things to like about Nkosi. The offensive line was still intermittent at best. There were a couple times that they did give him time. On that throw to Brevin Jordan up the sideline, they gave him a lot of time to make that throw. So, there's a lot going on. But overall, yeah, you turn the ball over 5 times. You're not able to run the ball. And the defense is just still not playing up to the standard that Miami's had. And I know that I've been going on a little diatribe here, so I'm going to get off of my soapbox. But the last thing I will say, when Miami hired Manny Diaz, whether you liked it or not, the paradigm was continuing the level of excellence we've seen on defense and upgrading the offense. That was the game plan overtly stated. We're going to continue to do what we've done since I've been here for 3 years as defensive coordinator, is now head coach. We're going to continue to do what we've done on that side of the ball and upgrade this other side of the ball. The defense has gotten so much worse because guys are going outside of their responsibilities and hurting the integrity of the structure of the defense. And it's not good enough. And I think that we saw that on Saturday.
To me, the highlight of the first half was, and since we were analyzing, or you were mostly analyzing Nkosi Perry's great throws and mistakes, was that, and this seems like it's simple to do, but he threw a perfect Hail Mary pass. And actually, the play was executed perfectly. There always has to be some luck involved. Yep. But I watched that a couple of different times, slow-mo, the whole deal. So I watched the condensed game, and I actually cut a video where I analyzed the first half and the second half. So I was just really trying to zero in on various facets of Miami's performance. But they had the bunch of receivers together in the end zone. He threw it perfectly in regards to depth in the end zone. He didn't throw it too short. He didn't throw it out. You see quarterbacks throw it out of the back of the end zone or it's on the back line and they're trying to keep it in. He threw it perfectly. Mallory executed perfectly. And then, of course, it was caught by Mark Pope.
The last thing, or the only thing I'll say about that is it was a very well thrown ball, and obviously you get the luck. Or I mean, you practice that, but it comes together perfectly. If Jaron Williams is in the game, the ball doesn't get there. And whether that's because of his native arm strength, he's dealing with a shoulder injury now. So Jaron Williams is not going to probably play on Friday. Nkosi Perry has been announced as a starting quarterback. And yeah, I think that he's had that injury for a while. I think that was in the Central Michigan game. I know for sure he got sacked and fell on that shoulder, and he came to the sideline with his arm just hanging. So maybe that affected the level of arm strength that he already had, which is average to being less than that for a couple of those throws that were intercepted. Some people are talking about the fact that he, got injured in the Florida game, and that's been propagated over the course of time. Yeah. We'll see. But, it's going to be Nkosi Perry. And, obviously he flashed some things. And, Nkosi being out there, it changed the space out there. And, welcome back to the show, Jeff Thomas, because he finally, reemerged on the scene.
Yeah, 6 catches for $124 for Jeff Thomas with a couple touchdowns. JT sounds faithful in his viewership and asking questions each and every week. Very insightful questions as well. We appreciate everyone on the live chat, in the live chat room, and certainly ask your questions and make your comments to Cam. Hey, Cam, 2 questions. First, is Chris Morris out of Arkansas a real take for us, considering how late we are offering? Secondly, what difference will Manny have this week, quote, being more involved?
Those are good questions. I'm going to try to answer questions a little bit quicker for the rest of today, because I know that you guys have a lot of things that you want to talk about. Number one, Chris Morris is an offensive lineman out of Arkansas. He projects more as a guard, but there is film of him working at tackle. He's a guy who spoke to Bud Elliott at one of the opening regionals over the summer. And when asked what team he wanted an offer for that would change his recruitment, he said, and I quote, Miami. Directly like that, because I spoke to Bud about it. So, I hope that, this is a thing where we can get involved. I don't know why we waited so long when he's on record in public speaking to people. And, he's a guy who did well at the opening regional and things like that, talking about, Miami. I want that offer that would change things, that would alter the landscape of my personal recruitment. I don't know why it's taken till October to actually reach out to him, but hopefully we'll see what happens. I'm not going to say that he's a take right now, but obviously looking at the offensive line, he is a guy. I mean, we still need guys, and lots of them. So hopefully Miami is really considering turning up the pressure on Chris Morris. Regarding Manny Diaz and his involvement, he said that he's going to be more involved in the defense, and it's not schematic, so he's not calling plays. Blake Baker is. It's not things like that. It's not living up. It's a culture thing. And it was funny because when the Washington professional football team fired their coach, the owner was talking about culture and things like that. And one of the NFL writers that I follow, Patrick Creighton, he was just like, this culture is a thing that you say when you're unwilling to be direct about what the actual issues are. And I think that Manny Diaz is in that spot. But I think it comes down to guys just freelancing, honestly. And if you look back at the film, Shaq Quarterman and Mike Pinckney were all over the place in a bad way. They were not where they were supposed to be. They were not covering the tight end on all of those throwback passes. I think there were 4 of them during the game, and 3 of them went for touchdowns. It was pretty bad. And he's talked again about Manny Diaz, that is, about guys who were integral, foundational players to this defense who have performed well for years, not doing their jobs anymore. It's hard to take that as anything other than a direct message to those guys. So I don't know what he's going to do, if it's going to be, him over there saying, hey, ditto, run that again until you run it right. Okay, cool. We're going to do a pursuit drill so everybody gets their conditioning in. Everybody on the line, we're doing 110s until I get tired. I don't know what it is, but whatever disciplinarian he needs to be, I believe that he's going to be it.
We talk Miami football, and we're in the midst of the race for the Coastal Division Championship. Not off to a good start. 14-point favorite at home against Virginia Tech. Go down 28-0, come all the way back. 35-35, should have been 36-35. Did it matter? Probably not, but still very disappointing. Having gone for 2, which was an interesting call, of course, Cam, to go for the 2, get the 2 to set yourself up just to score the touchdown and win the game with the extra point. That, of course, didn't happen.
That's what the analytics say. When you're down by 14 late in the game, you score a touchdown, go for 2. Because then if you come back and score another touchdown, the extra point is to win it. Or if you don't get the 2 on the first one, you still have the opportunity to get that point. So it's really a no-lose situation. And, Miami did it, executed it perfectly. DJ Dallas, again, just making a personal individual play to get to the corner and dive into the end zone on the 2-point conversion. But then Bubba Baxa misses another kick. Like, what? I mean, it was on the east end zone. So that's the same end zone where the ball was blocked against Florida State a few years ago. But still, yeah, man, if it's not one thing, it's another. And that whole sequence, when that happened, you get the Mike Harley personal foul, then you miss the extra point. Then you get it's not a short kickoff, but you're kicking from your own 20. They return it out to the 38-yard line, I think it was, on their last drive. Like, bro, come. I mean, it was bad. It was not what it needed to be. But it was, yeah.
Kyle Pickett reminding everyone to support me for my 2020 vice presidential campaign, as he did in the previous live stream. I want to remind everyone, as I did in the previous live stream, that there is a site called MiamiMoneyball.com. So this particular fantasy site focuses on Miami Hurricanes football first and foremost, but also a number of other Florida teams. Just found out about this. And you go play, and basically what you do is, you're a fantasy football guy. You run down all the Miami stats. So, of course, the big Friday night games against Virginia at home, you can go through 12 different categories and make your selections about how many first downs you think Miami's going to get, how many passing yards, how many rushing yards, how many touchdown throws out of now Nkosi Perry, interceptions, and so forth. For example, I'll give you one category. I selected Nkosi Perry to finish with 236 passing yards. That speaks to a good Virginia defense and a competitive game, not a game you're down 28-0 that you got to throw 48 passes. So that 48, 22. He was chucking it downfield. That accounts for the 422, but he also had to throw 48 times.
47 for him, and then another
47
for Jaron.
Correctly.
But again, I think that version of the offense is what we need to see. Why are you operating in a phone booth? Why are you trying to shrink the field? This is not Army, where you have to do that. Or, the old Nebraska, like the 90s Nebraska, where they didn't have skill position guys like that, but they had really good offensive linemen. They had really good fullbacks. So you can do all that interior run blocking, that run game porn that you want to see and everything, because it is exquisite in that kind of a way. Miami has speed. Miami has more skilled position talent than you have, whoever you are on defense, to be able to combat that. So spread it out and chuck it up there. Because again, if you spread the field, and you spread it not just horizontally, but vertically by throwing the ball down the field, you will open up more room for your run game. Now you have Nkosi Perry, who can run and keep the ball in RPO or option situations. Now, or zone read. Now you have to account for the quarterback, and then you can build things off of that. That's what this team should be doing. I don't understand why we should be going conservative when conservative is getting us nothing in terms of production on offense. Like, yeah, okay, we might not throw it 54 aggregate times. We could throw it in the mid-30s and stretch the field. I just don't see where this aversion to throwing the ball comes from. I've been saying this for years. Spread it out and use the speed. What are we doing?
Again, Virginia Tech. Now it's Virginia. So forget about that. The game's over. It's 0-2 in the ACC, and there's ground to be made up. But if you win at Virginia or win the game straight up against Virginia, then you put yourself in a position to make it a log jam. But this is a must-win situation, because Virginia is most likely the other best team in the division, and they are not going to lose too many more games. I don't remember exactly their cross-division situation, despite they do play Louisville every year. I don't remember who else they play. They already They already played Florida State. They beat Florida State, so they won the other non-division game. They've got Louisville, so that's not necessarily a difficult one for them. So they've already beaten Pitt, who's proven pretty capable. So they won that game at Pitt. They've got to play Miami on the road. So that's a lot of road games there. So I'm assuming the other games are many home games there lined up for Virginia. So they're in pretty good position right now. So you got to win this one head to head, and then hope that they drop another one. You tie for the division lead, and you get to the ACC championship game that way.
Yeah, they got 3-3, so they're on the road against us, Louisville, and North Carolina. They're home against Duke, Georgia Tech, and Virginia Tech, and then they got another non-conference against Liberty mixed in there as well. But yeah, I mean, the season's on the line on Friday night, period, point blank. Just like Seth Meehan says, Miami ain't even making a bowl game this year. Look, that's what comes down to on Friday, honestly. That's the gravitas of this game. Like, literally, the season is on the line. You lose this game, there's no chance for you to win the Coastal. If you win this game, you still need, I would say, 2 games of help, to be comfortable. But you need at least another loss by Virginia, and then hope that, you guys are the only 2 with 2 losses at the top at the end of the year, and then, whatever. No, but I can't overstate this enough. 2-3 and 0-2 in the ACC. I mean, you lose to a average at best North Carolina team. You lose to a bad Virginia Tech team at home. And it speaks to the quality or lack thereof for the Miami Hurricanes this year. I mean, obviously Miami's not a good team, despite the level of talent on the roster. But the season now comes down to Friday's game against Virginia. And I mean, it's the season on the field, hopefully. I mean, because if you're halfway through the season with 2 wins, that means now you're fighting to get to bowl eligibility. When you have, some other games against teams who really, really, really want to take advantage of you not at being at your best. And then, I've talked about it for a long time, and we all know that this is where I started blogging. Bro, you lose this game, you're sitting at 2-4. Things are not going to go well in recruiting. And I'm not even talking about the big targets. Like, get rid of that. Like, just put those out of your mind. The Justin Flows of the world, the, whatever 5 stars, that Miami was in conversation with. Put that all the way out of your mind. Start thinking about the guys who are a tier below that. Solid 4 stars, high 4 stars. Start thinking about the guys in this class, because they might start looking around, to be perfectly honest. That's what this game can mean. I mean, it is all hands on deck. Like, this is the season on Friday. And if you don't believe me, that's perfectly fine. But bro, the season is literally on the line. And again, it has been passed on transitively from Virginia Tech to us, because Virginia Tech was having all these conversations about the validity of their season moving forward. Before last week's game, people were calling for Justin Fuente to be fired. You're talking about this, that, and the third, quarterback switches, and what are they doing on defense, and all these conversations that we're having now, all this baggage. Virginia Tech literally said, "Hey, Miami, here you go. You can have that now," because everything is roses and sunshine up at Blacksburg. And I said this on Twitter, and people came at me because, there's a level of snark to it, but it's true. Miami found a way to lose to inferior Virginia teams when Al Golden was the coach, and that kept Mike London employed quite literally several times. Miami just gifted Justin Fuente the same thing. A bad inferior Virginia Tech team comes in here, and we gift them a win and stave off the execution block for him and keep him employed. This is the thing that Miami has specialized in for the teams in the state of Virginia over the course of like a decade now. And if you don't believe it, well then, hey, that's perfectly fine. But that's what happened. We saved that man's job by not playing to the level that Miami Hurricanes should play to. I'm sick of it. I'm tired of it. And regardless of anything else, this season, put all the other stuff out, who's injured, the season comes down to this 60 minutes at Hard Rock Stadium on Friday. What you got?
Yeah, and you're basically making 2 statements when you make that statement, as you pointed out, do the metrics, do the math. It's pretty easy to see that Virginia's not going to win this game, then go lose 3 other games. So the season's over in regards to winning the Coastal Division Championship. You win this, you're back in it. Okay, then you're hoping that they lose somewhere else down the line. You tie in the standings, you've got the head-to-head, and you're good to go, and you win the division championship.
Mm-hmm.
You go to 3 losses in the conference. They remain at 0 losses. Their loss was at Notre Dame, out of conference. They're not losing 3 games. Well, they're not losing 4 games at that point, because you've got to. So anyway, it's over. But then you're taking it to another degree. You're looking down the road in regards to the challenges of going on the recruiting path, the recruiting trail, and trying to lure the type of athletes you need at Miami, even though most of them are right in your backyard, with a 5-7 season, 6-6 season, whatever it becomes.
Right. And, Miami's not been able to recruit well when we have bad seasons. Other teams can do it. Notre Dame goes 4-8. They're a national brand, so it is what it is. Florida State goes 5-7. They have a top 15 recruiting class. They recruit better than Miami in that year that they were that bad. Isaiah Walker Jr., who I've spoken of here many a time, he goes to Norland High School. Norland High School is literal walking distance from Hard Rock Stadium. I know people personally who park over in that area near the high school and the middle school and the elementary over by Norland, and walk to the stadium instead of parking in the stadium parking lot. Like, that's how close to Hard Rock Stadium it is. There is no other. I mean, it's got to be like a mile or under from Norland to Hard Rock Stadium. Isaiah Walker Jr. just committed to Florida this past weekend. You know what I mean? So, I mean, he has literally the closest possible proximity to the stadium where we play. And he's going up to Gainesville to play for them. Like, yeah, it's going to be a problem. It is. And, if these coaches don't have a clear paradigm for recruiting, which to this point I'm questioning if they do, it could get ugly. And, I know it was the last thing that I put in the recruiting rules, but it might be the most important rule, which is rule number 9, win. Again, it is the positive proof of your concept. And if you're talking about, hey, we brought back these senior linebackers to do this, and we're going to do this and that, and then, you have this plan, and then you go out and not accomplish those things, sad days, I'm telling you.
To your point, at the same time that Miami's on national television losing to a Virginia Tech team that had a deplorable track record going into the game and was a 14-point underdog, anybody watching those games and flipping around could flip at that same time window at 3:30 Eastern time to the Florida win against Auburn and see Florida in the SEC beating a top 10 team. And it's tough to make a decision, to put your faith in a situation where you can make that direct comparison. And you're a Florida kid, you want to stay in Florida, and you're looking at wins and losses and where these two programs sit currently.
Yeah, and I mean, I got 2 TVs set up over here, so I had those 2 games on. So I'm watching Miami and I'm watching Florida at the same time. And obviously you're fighting for a caliber of player who's maybe a step down from, the elite guys who are all going to, Georgia, Clemson, Alabama, and Ohio State. But, you can't, Miami lost out on, 5 offensive linemen to Florida in last year's recruiting class alone. Now you have your number 1 guy who you've been on for 2 years, and he also chucks you the deuce to go up to Gainesville after you done lost out on all those other dudes to Gainesville. Yeah.
Where Cam, at the same time, and you know this better than me, 5 weeks earlier, just 5 weeks earlier, sure, you lost to Florida, but the case could be made by the coaching staff. Hey, look at what we've got going. We just went head-to-head with these guys. It's a toss-up game. We had a first-time starting quarter. You could make the case for, we've got this thing going in the right direction. We just started. We just played a top 10 team. We played them to the wire. We went head-to-head. Boom. But 5 weeks later, and 6 games or 5 games into the season, it's difficult to make that claim.
Yeah, it's one of those things. If Miami had come out and handled business after that game, losing to, I mean, I hate that conversation, but everybody does it anyway. The Florida loss would have been one of the best losses that any team in the country had.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you play a field goal game against a top 10 team. They just beat Auburn. You know, if you're sitting here at 4-1 and you beat, you know, everybody else on the schedule, look, Miami's in the top 25. You're probably talking top 20, top pushing towards 15. You say, look, they played this well. They played these other games really well. So Miami's not as good as Florida, who's number 8 or 7 right now. But yeah, there's a clear case for them to be, you know, 15, maybe even a little higher than that. But you lose all that cachet when you go out 2 weeks later and you let, you know, Sam Howell slice and dice.
This is our weekly Miami Hurricanes show every Wednesday night at 8 o'clock Eastern time. Want to get to the question from J Love. We appreciate the contribution so much. Question for Cam. Nkosi wins out. Will it make our staff look incompetent? So I'm going to cut into this question before I let Cam finish out. It reminds me of the 2016 USC Trojans. They selected, I can't remember the kid's name. There was Max Brown. There was another kid anyway. I'll have to look him up, that they selected over Sam Darnold. But anyway, 3 games into the season, they go to Sam Darnold. He lights it up at Utah. They still lose the game, but he lights it up, and then they go on and win the Rose Bowl, and he's the number 3 pick in the NFL draft 2 years later. We trust this coaching staff to be able to watch in practice, especially those heated, the 7-on-7s plus those scrimmages, to determine who's the best player for the system and who's catching on and who's got the most arm talent, the whole deal. We've talked about all those components of what makes up the best quarterback choice, leadership, all those qualities. You expect the coach to be able to make that decision. Maybe he didn't. It's easy to say now.
I think that for what they wanted to do, Jaron fit. And there are a lot of positives with Jaron. You know, again, the short and intermediate passing game, his accuracy is, I mean, really, really damn good. You know, you don't complete 73% of your passes by happenstance. I think that we hoped that his arm strength had improved, and we see that it has not. What up, Jay, the U family Blaze? I don't necessarily think it makes them incompetent. I just think that it's been clear for at least a couple of weeks that Jaron Williams has been injured. And as a former baseball player and somebody who studies throwing, because I was a pitcher, you know, things like that, and just having been around, you know, just throwing mechanics for a long time and really taking time to look at it, the thing that you can overcome, and if you watch baseball, even tangentially, even with half an eye pointed, you know that you can come back from elbow injuries. You get your Tommy John surgery, you know, whatever, your ligament replacement. You can still have a long, long, long career with, you know, with an elbow injury. Shoulder injuries end careers, period. They just do. You know, it's the foundational joint of the arm. It's just like it's a complex thing. And if you have shoulder injury or shoulder issues, you cannot really come back from those. And I think that that's what we're seeing with Jaron. I don't know how long he has been injured. I know that people, like I said, they've been talking about he got dinged up against Florida. I will say with my own 2 eyes, I saw him suffer some kind of injury situation against Central Michigan, because you don't come off the field with your arm dangling, you know, like that, in that way, you know, because if anybody's ever hurt their shoulder, even gotten a stinger, you know, that kind of formation where your arm is just kind of hanging there, you're waiting for it to come back to sensation or whatever. I know that I will say that with absolute fact against Central Michigan. I don't know if it was a stinger. I don't know if it was a separation. I don't know what it is, but he's not been healthy. And I think that's been borne out. Do I think that the coaching staff was incompetent in picking Jaron Williams to start at the beginning of the year? Absolutely not. I don't think it's gone the way that they wanted it to. I don't think that, you know, the defense supported them. I think that they wasted a lot of, you know, Jaron Williams' good performances. I think they wasted some very good performances from DJ Dallas. Excuse me, Jesus, early in the year and things like that. But I don't think that they were incompetent. I think that they were trying to be a little bit more on the side of cautious. And, you know, you want to try to play ball control, which Miami is actually being really, really elite at this year. Their ball control metrics. But again, it is a two-sided operation where you have a good defense and then you have a strong offense to control the ball on the other side of that. I just looked it up. Miami has average time of possession of 33 minutes and 8 seconds, which is good for 16th nationally. So, you know, you're holding the ball for over half the game. So you want to play this ball control game and then have a stifling defense on the other side. And that's what a defensive coach wants to do more often than not. The defense has let that down. So you're wasting the good work of the offense in that regard. So, no, I don't think that they were incompetent to pick Jaron. I just think that the paradigm that they had in picking Jaron has not worked out because the defense hasn't held up their end of the bargain and the offense wasn't able to come through in some tough situations when behind the sticks.
I'd like to remind everyone that if you enjoy the conversation and the analysis from Cam each and every week, the Super Chat is on. So you can make your contribution to the channel and specifically to this show. Here at Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football, we talk Miami each and every Wednesday night. And as I encourage you each and every week, go out and bring in some more people to watch the show on Wednesday night. Also, again, this MiamiMoneyball.com. It's MiamiMoneyball.com. And what you do is you go there and you select any number of games, and they focus on Florida football teams, the Dolphins, the Canes, the Gators, the Seminoles. The one that I chose was Miami and Virginia for this week, and you've got 12 stats categories. And for example, let's see if you can get it closer than me. Nkosi Perry with 236 passing yards. I would tend to think I'm a little low on that, but that's what I went with. 236 passing for Nkosi this Friday night. I can't wait for this game. I've been looking forward to this game the entire offseason. Now, I expected Miami's record to be a little bit better. Let's see, they're 2-3. I was probably more in the 4-1 range. Yeah, at this point. And Virginia is right about where I thought, but certainly looking forward to this game because I still think, regardless of what we've seen to date, that they're the two best teams for different reasons, the two best teams in the division.
Yeah. Miami is still supremely talented. I don't think that we're well coached right now. I don't think that they're holding up their end of the bargain. Obviously, the defense, like I've said, they're not holding up the end of the bargain either. And I hope that what we saw in the second half against Virginia Tech is more of the offensive system going forward, because I've been saying it for years that we need to go more spread. You know, that's when I wrote the piece, that spawned the hashtag Let's Be Jerks about, bringing in Lane Kiffin. That was about offensive innovation. And that was before we hired Mark Richt. You know what I mean? Like, I've been saying this for a long, long time. Pace and space. That is my preferred offensive style, whether it's in basketball, whether it's in football. Like, use the athletes that you have. Like, you saw Brevin Jordan come alive, and he's a nightmare mismatch, even if you want to go conservative offense, but still, like, you can't guard that guy. Then you got Jeff Thomas and Mark Pope. You can't run with them. You get D. Wiggins in there, who's big and fast. You get Brian Hightower in there. You get KJ Osborne, who's just a technician. You get Will Mallory in there. You get TJ Dallas, Cam Harris in the backfield. It's what I want. And it's been what I've wanted for many years. And I hope that we come out with that. And honestly, I hope that Dan Enos puts his pride to the side, because, again, every coach has what they want to do offensively, defensively. If you run a program, if you run a marketing department, if you're a teacher with a program, whatever it is, you have the way that you want things to go, and then you have the way that things work. And we've seen the way that he wants them to go is not necessarily working. But then when, hey, look, we got to open it up, we got to do these other things, and that's what hits pay dirt. Stick with that, Dan. Please.
We will honor your comments and questions in the live chat, including from the wire. And I will only at times take jabs at your comments and questions. But if you bring some level of logic to the conversation, then I will refrain. The wire here. What state do you think has the most fertile ground for linemen? How many do you think Miami should take at this cycle?
I surmise that you're talking about offensive linemen. I would say between like the Southeast and the Midwest in general, but like outside of the population centers. So like the middle of nowhere, Alabama, the middle of nowhere, Iowa, places, Wisconsin, not in the cities, because you're not going to get really usually a lot of big dudes there, but like them big country boys, you know what I mean? But like in the footprint of the SEC, and then in the footprint of like the Big Ten West, I would say that like swath going from the Southeast to the North, or the Midwest, but Northwesterly, I would say that area in the country would be the area to get offensive linemen from. So it's not a state per se, but like that kind of area. I don't know what the square mileage is. Bud Elliott at SB Nation, he does a beautiful thing every year talking about the 5-star desert, where he will map out the United States and say, okay, there's no 5-star ever from this swath of millions of square miles. I don't know what the mileage is on it, but that's where I would say the region, I guess, even though it spans to from the Southeast to the Midwest. Anyway, how many do I think that Miami should take this year? I think I have it in the class breakdown series at like 6. So 6 or more, if you're able to get guys of quality, but yeah, I would say lots and lots and lots, please.
I don't know if this state breakdown really tells us a whole lot, but I just checked out the ESPN top offensive guards for 2020. They're from Texas, California, Arkansas, Georgia, Tennessee, Washington, Texas, South Carolina, Florida, Georgia, Alabama, Massachusetts, Texas, Florida, Washington, Virginia, New Jersey, Texas, Georgia, Maryland, Mississippi, Florida, Oklahoma, Virginia, Maryland, Idaho, Texas, California, Texas, Ohio, Texas, Ohio, New Jersey, Ohio.
Right. Yeah, so I mean, with a couple notable exceptions, it's pretty much the footprint of the Big Ten and the SEC. You had that one Idaho. You have, a couple in California. Bud Elliott, again, colleague at Banner Society, just wrote a piece about there not being big defensive linemen out in California really anymore, but offensive linemen, you might be able to find some. Boston or the Massachusetts area, okay, you might, but like, yeah, the whole list that Mark just read, you got like a couple outliers, but everything else is in the footprint of the Big Ten and the SEC. You know what I'm talking about.
The offensive tackles are too. North Carolina, Georgia, Ohio, Georgia, Florida, Oklahoma, Wisconsin, Texas, Kansas, Florida, Georgia, Kentucky, Pennsylvania, Tennessee, Wisconsin, Florida, Texas, Illinois, Texas, Michigan, Florida, Georgia. Okay, yeah.
So that whole list of tackles, there was not a single player who's outside the footprint of the Big Ten or the SEC. Trying to tell you.
There they are. All right. We know you love your Miami football, win or lose, and it's been a rough one over the last 5 weeks, and starting off at 2-3 and 0-2 in the ACC, and it's a must win. Doesn't take a mathematician, as Cam had outlined a few minutes ago in regards to Virginia's at the top. Miami's lost 2 in the ACC. There's only 8 games. You lose head-to-head, and you're down 3, and you lose the tiebreaker. So like, comment, share the videos, and of course, join us each and every week and bring some folks along with you. We've got Corey Jeff on the line. Corey Jeff, we appreciate the contribution. Thank you so much. How much of what Manny says about changing involvement? I think we had this question before, but we'll certainly honor your question. In the defense's coach speak, what is his role actually going to be?
Again, I believe whenever you're talking about culture, it is a intentionally non-specific coach speak term, because you're trying not to be specific about what the issues are. And I understand that, because you do want to keep some of those things in-house. You're not going to put all of your family business on the street. And I mean, that's just personally. So obviously with the organization such as football team, it's going to be the same thing. So there is a measure of that, of coach speak, of intentional obfuscation of the issues, just because you want to keep those things behind closed doors. It's not entirely clear externally what his role is going to be. From on the defense, but he's definitely going to be over there more, I believe, as a disciplinarian, not letting things slide, not letting players kind of half-ass it or, take shortcuts or play outside of what their responsibilities are. And yeah, it's like I was a teacher for 15 years. And so the analogy is clear to me. I worked with a man who at one time was the state teacher of the year at Miramar High School. His name was Alvin Davis, a wonderful individual. Now just earned his doctorate, by the way. But anyway, when the new band director came in, when Mr. Davis was gone for that year, when he was being the ambassador around the state of Florida, the discipline in the band room was different. So the guy who was there, being the band director, another good friend of mine, when Alvin would come around, he would say, "Hey, can you come talk to these guys? Because they won't listen to me the way they'll listen to you." So Alvin would have to go over there and lay the law and say, "Hey, I might not be here directing every note and teaching every lesson, but y'all still gonna do this the way that we do this." I believe that that's gonna be what it is with Manny Diaz. Because Blake Baker, he's talking about I want to do this, but they won't listen to me necessarily the way they listen to you. So Manny says, then I had to come over there, they're gonna listen to me because I'm the HNIC. So I think that's what it is.
Talking Canes, we've got the Cavaliers coming up on Friday night. And Cam, I'm sorry, you must have had a good one there, and I missed it. I was too locked in on the live chat looking for good comments.
No, I'm looking at the one on the screen right now.
Oh, okay. So everyone, we appreciate your contributions in the super chat here from Dashust. Cam, do you think Manny Icebacks are going for too late?
No, I do not think that he iced Manny or that Manny iced Bubba Baxa by going for 2 after the touchdown when we were down by 14. I spoke about the analytics and how that is the thing that makes sense. Most coaches don't do it. But even when you see NFL guys, NFL journalists, Bill Barnwell, Chris B. Brown from Smart Football, those guys hop on Twitter when that happens. They say, "Yo, wait, Manny Diaz did the down by 14 go for 2?" Yeah, because they have been talking about this for years. NFL writers, NFL types are looking at this. Other guys who focus on analytics get high. Bill Connolly, formerly of SB Nation, now at ESPN, he did the same thing. Dude, that's what you're supposed to do. So no, it wasn't intentional. Now, I will say this. I'm sure that, the red zone decision-making was affected by Bubba Baxa missing kicks repeatedly and even continually through last week's game. But in that situation, Manny made the right call to go for 2 after we scored down 14. No, it wasn't icing him. Come on, bro.
Yeah, some nerds got involved in baseball about 15 or 20 years ago. Nerds have gotten involved in football, and it makes sense. I used to sit there, and I'm no genius when it comes to watching football, but I've spent way too much of my life watching football. And I used to sit there and think, there's only so many possessions in a game. Look at the field position. Look at it's 4th and 2, and they're punting from the 39-yard line because they can't make a 56-yard field goal. So they just automatically punt because it's 4th and 2. And this is what used to happen. For those of you that are like 20, 22 years old, this is what used to happen in football as of 15 years ago. You just automatically punted unless you thought you could run the fullback into the line for a half yard. But if it's 4th and 1.5 or more, even at the opponent's 40, well, we can't make a 57-yard, so we're going to punt. And then half the time your punter hits it into the end zone, they're back out to the 20. And, it depends what kind of game it is, too. But most of the time, that just any defensive coordinator will tell you that they don't like protecting 4-point leads because the offense knows they got to go for it on 4th down to score a touchdown. They have to score a touchdown. They would rather the offense gets conservative. We only have to kick a field goal. And let's set up for a field goal. Classic, and I apologize if I've cited this because this is one of my favorite sequences of pointing out too conservative of coaching. Herm Edwards, think the guy's amazing on so many levels as a coach, but when it comes to game management and strategy, he leaves something to be desired. He was coaching the Jets. Good team, Curtis Martin, their running back, Chad Pennington, their quarterback. They are playing, and this is 1 week after he lucked out in winning a playoff game at San Diego, being too conservative. San Diego missed a field goal, laid it back in the Jets' hands. So he didn't learn his lesson. It's a week later. They're in Pittsburgh. It's like 18 degrees outside with swirling winds. They are driving the field. It's a very tight game, like finished out 23-20. He's got a quarterback. I'm watching the game. They put a graphic on the screen. Chad Pennington has not thrown a red zone interception in like 4 years. Curtis Martin has the longest string of rushing attempts in the NFL without a fumble. They have just driven from like their own 15 with no resistance, no question. The Steelers can't stop them. They drive from their 15 to like the Steeler 32, and all of a sudden, we can't throw, we can't do anything. Let's just set up for the field goal. Let's set up for like a 48-yard field goal in like 18-degree weather, howling winds. What do you think happens? They missed the field goal.
Yeah, bad, sad day. I remember that.
Conservative.
Right. So conservatism, I mean, at a time, it can be, useful. But for the Miami Hurricanes, there's no more conservatism that we can do at pretty much any time on the field. Again, this game is the season. This game is the season. I mean, this is 4-down territory the whole entire way. Just like that last drive, there is no tomorrow. We cannot lose. So you have to give it everything. I mean, you have to be literally drug off that field kicking and screaming, just like I was the last person sitting in the stands of the stadium after Miami lost at home to Florida State in 2016 with that blocked extra point, because that was literally coming in our direction where I was sitting with my friend and everybody, and I was the last person sitting in the stands, and they had to come, like security came down and said, "Sir, you have to go," because I wasn't going to leave. Just with that, but you have to have that same kind of mentality this week. There is no tomorrow. This cannot be I'm going to take this playoff, or I'm not going to. All that's gone. There's no more conservatism. You're not saving it for another day. If you've ever been saving it for another day or for another time, this is the day and this is the time. It has to be, or the season's over.
There are many of you who just watch for sheer entertainment, information. Enjoy yourself. The contribution is just you watching. Please hit the like button. Many of you take it upon yourself to help us out. James Scott, this guy all the time is pushing people. Hit the like button. Do this, do that. We appreciate it so much. Thank you so much, James. Reminding people, like, share, comment, subscribe. Go to the Amazon link in the description section of any of the videos. You help us build the channel doing that way, whether it's to support what I do each and every day with a number of teams and all the previews and everything, or if it's specifically Cam's contribution on Wednesday night. Virginia, Miami, I'm going to be locked in. We'll love to watch this game regardless. I think it's going to be a good one. Cam, thank you so much.
Yeah, I'm going to be there live and in person. So I believe that Marshall is going to have your tweets on at the State of the U Twitter account during the game. And then, the good, the bad, and the ugly is going to be delayed a little bit because I'm not going to write that until I get home after the game. But yeah, it's going to be a sight to see. I don't know exactly what the outcome is going to be, but yeah, thank you guys for tuning in always. Thank you for rocking with us. Just my last quick plugs. The website is stateoftheu.com. On Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, we're at the State of the U. My personal Twitter is at Underwood Sports, so you can interact and engage with me there on all of those kind of things. So please come over to stateoftheu.com and fan with us, and we will check in with you guys next week.
Everybody keep it locked in right here. We will have Ohio State football talk within seconds. Thanks, Cam.
See you, bro.